Welcome back. You can see we have the image left exactly as we had it before. We flipped 4 copies of the same image that just contained slightly enlarged noise. And you can see the mosaic pattern that occurred when we did the flip. I don't think this is a majorly interesting image by itself. It could use help, mixing something floral or something else with it. I am going to attempt to do this without taking an hour playing in my Photoshop sandbox, but I do want to give you an idea as to why I used smart objects. Many years ago, it must have been in the early 1990s, when Adobe introduced layers into Photoshop. My friend Rob Howard, who had written the Illustrator's Bible, had made the comment that he didn't understand why there were layers because he always knew what he was going to draw. He never made mistakes. Why should he need more than one layer? Well, I always make mistakes. I rarely know what I'm going to draw. And layers have been a real help to me. The next best thing from layers was when in CS2, Adobe Photoshop introduced the smart objects. A smart object is a file within a file. If I double-click any one of these smart objects to open it, you see we have our original 1/4 of the image. That's what I'm going to work with. I'm going to put a photograph inside this. I actually have a photo open on my desktop already, so I'll just bring it up here. I am working, as you can see, not in the tabbed interface. If you want to figure out how to turn it off, on my blog there are still more videos that show you how to get rid of the tabs. In this case, I'm going to take my Move tool and drag and drop the image into the open Smart Object file. How do I know it's the Smart Object file? It has a .psb extension on it. Now, this image is a lot bigger than the file that I'm working in. That's okay. I'm not sure which part of it I want to use or exactly how I want to work with this. So for the moment, I'm going to leave it this way. If I were to simply close this now by closing the little X on it, and it will ask me, do I want to save it? And I say yes. You can see we've got 4-way flowers. I'm going to close, at least put this into a small size now. We've got 4-way flowers, but we don't have anything to do with the layer that we had under it, our noise layer. Double click it, we have the object again. I can make this layer interact with the bottom layer in any number of ways. I can change the blend modes, and that's one of the easier ways to do this. You can see I'm holding my cursor on the blend mode and scrolling the little scroll key. It's unfortunately more difficult to do this on the Mac than on Windows. Vivid light, linear light, pin light, hard mix, difference, exclusion. I kind of like this subtract. Let's see what that looks like. If I want to be lazy and not close this file, I can just press Command S, save it, and it immediately updates on the original file. That's not too bad, but I'm losing the flower. I can move it around, and now we've got another update on it, a different way. Excuse me, my throat's very dry today. Let's see what else we can do. Let me put this back to normal and bring the flowers back towards the middle. I think I want to see what happens if I add an oil paint filter to this. So I'm going to make a smart object out of this first image that's sitting here on the top of my smart object. Convert to smart object. You probably couldn't see that on this video. So it would be layer, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object. And you can tell we've got the little Smart Object icon in the corner. Now I can put in the oil paint filter. Filter, oil paint. And again, you're not seeing the entire thing. Let's see if I can bring over the dialog box at least so that you can see that. And scroll this over. I have the settings that I had wanted to use the last time, and I kind of like them. Stylization of 2, cleanliness of 0, scale of 6, bristle detail of 2.7. I just fiddle with these really until I like the settings. I could give it more shine, which begins to look a little silly. Less shine, and you don't get anything in the texture. So it's the shine that makes the texture pop out. So I'm going to choose kind of a mid-range value and click OK. So let's see what we did if we just save it at this point. Command S. We have a 4-way flip with the flowers in the oil paint. But again, we're not interacting at all with this background layer. So let's see how we can make that happen. For starters, I'm going to open the Smart Object, and I think maybe all I really want out of this is the one flower. So I'm going to take the Quick Selection tool, and I'm going to select just this one flower. I'm clicking and dragging. In this case, it works fairly well because I'm not trying to be tremendously accurate. I've got the selection around the one flower, and then I'm going to add a layer mask by clicking the icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. So now I've just got this masked, and I'm going to click the X to save this. Yes, I wish to save it. So let's pull this down now that that's the one that we selected. And what happens at this point if I save it? Well, I think that's fair to middling ugly, actually. So, okay, what else can I do? I'm going to double-click my background layer here to make it float and make it a smart object as well. Layer, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object. I'm doing that because I want to filter this. Let's see what happens if I add filter, artistic. Let's try underpainting and see what happens. Again, this is a huge dialog box that's not fitting on the screen particularly well. I have the underpainting settings that I had wanted, but I could click colored pencil, cut out, dry brush, film grain, any one of these. Let me go back to the underpainting and click OK. So now it looks kind of almost like an opalescent effect. I would like it to look much closer to the colors of the flower. So I'm going to add a layer between these two layers so that I can pick a color of the flower and colorize the layer underneath it. Solid color fill, and again I will drag the color picker. I want one of the purples, so I'm going to sample from the layer until I find a color that I like. That was the purple I wanted. Okay, now I can change its blend mode to color. Again, unfortunately, you're not seeing that because it's at the very bottom. All right, I wonder if that's actually a good color for it. Not sure. Let's see what happens if I pick one of the greens, one of the grays. That might be at least a little more cohesive in the image. Remember, you can always change your mind. That's the amazing thing about this. And let's see if I can get this to react a little bit better. Multiply. Maybe that'll do it. Control S again, or Command S, and that gives us a new image. Not sure about that. Maybe what I want to do here is to come back into my original image and take this layer mask and add a blur to it. So I'm going to do that by double clicking, and the properties panel opens. If I feather this, we can get a softer edge. I can do it that way, or I can go back, close this, choose a paintbrush, brush tool with white, and pick a very soft brush, hardness of 0, and just add, so let me undo that, change the opacity to about 25% and make the brush larger. So I'm just adding and going over this a couple times so that I can begin to see more detail in the image. Click, save. Okay, that's interesting. Command S. Close this image now, and I think we're done. But you could keep fiddling with this forever. If I decided I wanted to get rid of any portion of this image, or I wanted to add more flowers, or I wanted to change the imagery completely, I can do it because I used smart objects. So I hope you'll use them as well. Enjoy. Till next time, this is Sherry London, the Prancing Pixel. Take care.